Jayson Tatum has been really awful for the Boston Celtics this season, and this is after I said that he was a dark horse to win the MVP, so I appreciate that, Jayson. But seriously, something is very clearly wrong here, right? Like, maybe he's out of shape, maybe he's not adapting to the system, maybe there's some sort of injury we don't know about, but no, not really. There's nothing new that I think is causing what's going on with Jayson Tatum right now. What is wrong with Jayson Tatum is something that's always been wrong with him, but it's just been elevated and to an extreme to open the season thus far. Let's talk about it. Before I continue on with this video, about half of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall into that 50%, then please subscribe. Also drop a like on this video, it only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. I'm really trying to speed run hitting 200k subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it if you subscribed, if you enjoy the video. So what are these issues that have already existed with him? Well, it's really two things: selective passiveness and an over-reliance on difficult shot making. There is a tough balance to strike in terms of how you value players who both take and make difficult shots. Because on the one hand, you need that type of player to win a championship. Like, at the highest level, you need a guy who can just completely bail you out on a possession and just make a crazy difficult shot. You need that. But you also don't want to take it too far in that extreme to the point where your team is just nothing but guys taking difficult shots. And even if they're very good at them, eventually an offense that relies on that kind of shot making too significantly is going to fall apart because it's not always going to work. That was the first season of Kawhi and PG on the Clippers. New coaching and personnel has fixed this, but in year one, the reason the Clippers struggled in the playoffs, and in that Game 7 in particular versus the Nuggets, was that their offense was nothing but Kawhi and PG trading tough shots. No open looks, no easy offense whatsoever, no looks in the paint. If you look at their shot chart in that fourth quarter, there were like no paint touches whatsoever. It was actually ludicrous. So those guys and like Lou Williams, it was just a lot of really tough offense that throughout the regular season and for a good amount of the playoffs would work, but there was nothing to fall back on when it wasn't working. And that type of offense not working is pretty much inevitable because it's relying on something that is very hard to do. In that Game 7, they were going to their typical difficult shots, and they were not going in this time around, and the Nuggets capitalized. This Clippers Season 1 problem is kind of a problem that exists with Jayson Tatum as a player ever since he made his leap, like, what was it, 2 seasons ago? Tatum takes an abundance of contested jump shots from mid-range and from 3, and the thing is, he is really good at these shots. In fact, he is one of the best in the league at making difficult contested shots. It is his forte. In some games, it'll even seem like he's the best in the league at making these types of shots, even though we all know it's actually Kevin Durant. He relies on them too much, and when they are not hitting, he does not have easier offense to go to. If you look at the best difficult shot makers throughout league history, very often they're also some of the more efficient players, and that's not for the amount of difficult shots that they take, but rather that they balance it out with more efficient offense. Steph Curry takes bonkers difficult threes from 35 feet contested off of the dribble, but he also supplements this with off-ball work from outside as well as drives that are opened up because of his 3-ball. Michael Jordan and Kobe, who are the players that Tatum clearly most closely tries to emulate, just a modern version, they both took a whole lot of contested mid-range jump shots, and in Kobe's case, he also did that a lot from outside, but they were both some of the best slashers in league history. And they did work off-ball in the triangle system for catch-and-shoot mid-range shots, which is no longer a thing that really happens in basketball, but nevertheless, it's kind of a similar thing to just doing that stuff but for threes now. But the point stands. You can be a player who has a huge part of his offense be difficult shot taking and making, but that can't be it. If that's it, you're gonna see something like what's going on with Jayson Tatum right now. You need to balance your palette with easier, more sustainable offense that you can fall back on, And then you can go to the difficult shots from that, but it's not the only thing that you have to go to. Very often with Tatum, you'll see him just possession after possession put up difficult shot after difficult shot. And sometimes you see him do this and he makes 4 in a row and you're like, wow, this dude's pretty fucking good. Or you watch him miss 5 in a row and you think, wow, this guy actually sucks. But the thing is, Jayson is not exclusively like this. He's not always like this, and when he's at his best, it's when he's not like this, obviously. Jayson Tatum is at his best when he is aggressive with his drive. The other problem that I mentioned is passiveness, and selective passiveness, kind of just falling in and out of games at a moment's notice for like 5 to full quarter stretches even. You'll very often find with Tatum where it just seems like he's kind of existing on the court. He's not really engaged, he's just there for the sake of being there, just to fill a minutes quota. He's there physically, but he's not there mentally. These types of lapses and just kind of falling out of the game are acceptable from time to time and even understandable. However, for them to happen damn near every game and very consistently be one of the biggest reasons why the Celtics are known for constantly blowing big leads, it's just not acceptable. Very often you'll find with Tatum and the Celtics in general as well, they'll kind of fall in line with him because, hey, you kind of do what your leader does. They will just fall asleep at the wheel for a long stretch of time, led by Jayson Tatum doing this, and this is almost always when the opposing team starts to make a comeback. When he does this, he barely shoots, and when he does, it's a contested shot because he doesn't want to put in the effort to generate a clean look. But you'll also find stretches with Tatum where he is just going the fuck off, and the thing that you will notice when he does this is very often in these stretches, it's when he's most aggressive with his drive to the rim that he is capable of being elite at, but he only does it sometimes. Now, a weird caveat in this is his finishing is also sometimes like wildly inconsistent. Last year, he started the year shooting weirdly awful on layups, and then he's done the same thing to start this year. But Tatum's most efficient offense comes off of the drive, and when he is doing this most effectively, that is when the rest of his game opens up and doesn't really feel like he relies on the tough shots too much. It just feels like another part of his game. And when he's fully engaged in this dynamic and doesn't fall asleep at the wheel, he's driving aggressively, his shots are dropping, he looks like a top 10 player in the league. He said before that he wants to take the leap from like a 15th-ish best player in the league to a top 5 guy. In order for him to do this, he has to make these changes and stick to them. It's all these like seemingly minor things, like these problems are not astronomical, but it's kind of what piles up and holds Tatum back from reaching that caliber of being a top 10, top 5 level player. It's these things that build up and it's like, yeah, Tatum's good, but it's the yes, but that holds him back there. Really, with the top 5 players in the league, there's not a whole lot of buts you're throwing out there. Unless it's Kyle Lowry, even though he's not top 5, but he got a dump truck though. That's a terrible joke, cut that out. I will say in Tatum's defense that he would most definitely benefit from a system that gave him cleaner looks and a point guard that could make plays for him rather than him being delegated to this playmaking role, which he's not bad at, but he's clearly not a natural at. I think back to like Carmelo Anthony and Chauncey Billups and the effect that Chauncey Billups had on Carmelo Anthony's effectiveness. I think a similar thing would happen if you paired an elite playmaking point guard next to Jayson Tatum. You would really see Jayson Tatum and the Celtics at their absolute best. And Udoka, as well as Brad Stevens' offense of the past, have really not been as dynamic for his off-ball game as I would really like. It kind of just falls into the Scott Brooks OKC offense where it's like, Kevin Durant's good, give it to him. Same thing, it's like Jayson Tatum's good, give it to him. And I don't know that that's really fair to him and his efficiency. It kind of existed with Stevens, this kind of offense. It does not exist whatsoever with Udoka. And you'll just see stretches where, as I mentioned earlier, Tatum just walks up the court 5 straight possessions, takes a bunch of bad shots and misses them. And then you look at Udoka and he's just gonna let it happen with not even a thought of an adjustment. I don't expect Tatum to remain as bad as he has been. To me, this is just a long stretch of the problems that he does have, but to an extreme. Like, I don't think these problems are as drastic as it looks like it is right now, because as mentioned, these problems existed before and he was still like the 15th best player in the league. But especially for Jayson Tatum to take the type of leap that the Celtics need him to take and that he wants to take. He needs to figure these problems out because they're going to be what holds him back from cracking into that tier of player. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, but that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.